Hi, Caroline and Wally. I'd like to do a short introduction. This is Caroline and Wally Zeman. They're both teachers in the Art of Living Foundation, full-time teachers. They came to the Art of Living in 1991, and I will leave it to them to introduce themselves. So take it away.
Thank you, Bala. Would you like to start? You want me to start?
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Well, we lived in Fairfield, Iowa, and we had a meditation technique, and our friends had to really encourage us to learn a new technique. And we heard that a saint was coming to town, and they said, well, you have to have taken the Art of Living course before you can meet this saint. Because I said, oh, I want to meet him. I want to meet. So we said, oh, okay, well, when's the next course? They said, tomorrow. And so we took the course, and we went rushing up to meet this beautiful saint. He was actually running a silence course, and we weren't on the course. We were just there to see him. So we would go to satsang in the evenings. And he would, every evening coming out, he would grab Wally's arm and say, are you happy? And Wally say, sure, yeah, I'm happy. And anyway, when the course was over, Guruji, we were standing across the opposite side of the car. He was getting into the passenger seat, and he took two flowers and threw them at us, and both flowers hit each of our hearts. And we left the course as if we'd taken the course fully immersed in bliss and happiness. And we went home telling every person we passed, you have to take this course. It's so wonderful. It's just fabulous.
Well, we went to the store after that and we looked at toothbrushes and saying, oh, wow, this is so fantastic. We were just gone, and we were just in ecstasy for several hours after the flower after he was yes.
So we decided to, invest a lot of our income in following Guruji around the United States and the world. But during that course, the first course, he was sitting in a rocking chair behind his house, and there was a tiny crowd, maybe 10, 12 people. And I went up and sat by the rocking chair, and the very first time, I mean, within seconds, he says, get my shawl, and I'm like, what? And so he says, it's just in there. So I, from that moment, I was taking care of him and feeding him, and it was such a great honor. And the same thing with Wally. From that very day, he would say, I need Wally to ride with me, and then I need Wally to drive me. So there was some karmic thing there. I had an astrology chart done, and it says, what kind of work do you do? And I said, oh, I don't work. I'm a housewife. I, have a garden, and I make food from scratch. And this man says, well, whatever you do, you're going to be catapulted to the top immediately. So I guess I assumed this was my job. And we wanted to take teacher training right away. At least I did. And Wally said, well, I'm not ready yet. So I waited and waited, and he didn't say yes. And we were in Switzerland, and they were having a teacher training course. So I went running upstairs to Guruji's room, and I said, Guruji, can I take teacher training? He goes, yes. And Wally, I heard him behind me. I said, I think Wally wants to too. And can he? And he says, yes, yes. So that's
I got dragged into it.
That's how we went on our first teacher training course. And it was all, we had the first part one in Switzerland, and then we had half of it up in Canada, and then we went to India and finished. So it took us a few months to maybe 3 months or so. But it was such a different experience than what people go through today. And we were traveling with Guruji, and as we had just finished learning to be the part one teacher, and we were in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, and Guruji was giving talks. So much fun. We would go and put flyers around. We'd land in town, and we'd find a hall, and we would go poster that there'd be a talk this evening. And we literally filled the halls every place we went, just with 1 day notice. So then after his talk, we had how many people? 25, 30 people for a course. He says, well, who's going to teach the course? And so he left us there in Rotterdam with, there was Pia lived there. And of course, they didn't speak English. So whatever we taught, Pia translated. But that was our first course teaching, the part one course. And for me, after we had been teaching for a year, I was having a quiet moment and realizing, oh, I learned Art of Living 1 year ago. And I was like, wow. I was just so blown away by the immensity of how our life had changed together. We had very difficult relationships and, being upset with each other. And when we learned this course, we decided that instead of pointing our fingers at each other, we would point the finger at ourselves and say, where is it that I'm not living this knowledge? And it really, really, really turned our lives around. So but we had been from day one, we were having satsangs at our house every week, and it never stopped. We traveled, and so many stories we could go on and on.
Oh my God, that is so beautiful, Caroline. I love that part about pointing the finger at ourselves rather than at each other. Wow.
And I always encouraged people to write these basic course points and put them on the refrigerator, because they have to go into the refrigerator several times a day, and they can remind themselves if they're living all these steps, or if they're having a rough time, just go to the refrigerator and look at the door and see where you're missing something.
Wow.
But we've had so many miracles in our life,
Both of us got healed of cancer, by the way.
Wow.
Both Caroline and myself.
Why don't you tell a story about yours?
Well, I had this growth on my back, and I went to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, we're going to have to go way deep in there, 4 inches, and you'll have a big hole in there and everything." So didn't I mention it to Guruji? And he said, "There's nothing."
He was rushing us. The doctor was rushing us, and he says, we went one day, and he says, we'll do it tomorrow morning, first thing, 8 o'clock. And Wally's
It was a
like,
bad case of melanoma, he said. So
and Wally says, wait a minute, there's got to be another way. So he says, let me call Guruji. Sits down at his desk and tells the Guruji the story, and Guruji says, nothing is there. Nothing will happen. He says, so he said, do something, and then it's gone. So we used some essential
couple of
oils.
essential oils.
And never, that was, almost 30 years ago. Nothing happened. And for me, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And the doctor was just very upset, and it's very awful. And Guruji said, no, there's nothing. But still, I had the surgery, and the doctor even showed my family how bad it was. And I woke up in the middle of the surgery, and he's telling the other doctors, I'm searching inside her to see if it's spread anywhere. It's so bad. And then when they did the biopsy of the cancer, there was no cancer. And so we know we were both cured of that.
Both healed.
Those cancers.
Wow.
Yeah, huge gifts. Do you want to hear a beautiful story of a friend of ours healing? One of our friends came to us and said they were very upset that their daughter was very sick, and that they were going to have to give the baby up for adoption. She was pregnant, and the baby would have to be given up for adoption. And she had AIDS. And so when the baby was born, it's the procedure, natural procedure, that they test the baby to see if the baby also has AIDS. They tested the baby, and it didn't have AIDS. So then they tested the mom, and she no longer had AIDS either. And so this person went to Guruji and said, you did this, didn't you? And he said, but it's your family. So completely healed that person of AIDS. And other friends, they would have surgery, and they would say, I was so worried, Guruji, I couldn't reach you. And Guruji would say, but I was telling the surgeon how to do the surgery.
Oh,
So many stories like that. Or we'd be together and he'd say to us, "Oh, so and so is crying. I think she'd feel better if we gave her a call. Shall we call her?" And we'd call, and sure enough, she was sitting on the couch, feeling very bad. And so he feels each one of us. I mean, the movement's so large now. We think that Guruji doesn't notice, but he does, each and every person. Like he'd get out of bed one morning and he'd say, "I couldn't sleep all night because so and so was so upset." I felt their upsetness.
wow.
So
That's so humbling to know.
it really is. Even we were in Los Angeles remember the O.J. Simpson story, and somebody asked him about it because it had just happened, and he was giving a big talk, thousands of people, and they asked about it, and Guruji said, "I can only blame myself that I haven't brought this knowledge to more people by now." It's just so humble. And the other story is when we used to be the hosts for Swamis in California. Guruji, as you know, in India, there's other movements where the Swamis honor and follow Guruji. They're so much in love with him, and he, as a gift to them, he brings them to the United States. And Wally happens to generally be the host. And so we had an RV that could drive all of them around. I think there was 12 Swamis, and they had an interpreter that traveled with them because none of them spoke English. Wally has some good stories, but the interpreters told the most beautiful story about our knowledge. He said, "I've spent my whole life reading all of the Vedas and trying to live this knowledge." And he said, "And your Guruji has compacted it into such a beautiful presentation and package." He says, "Every single one of you live all of the points that I've spent my life trying to inculcate through this knowledge, through the reading and studying. And here it's handed to us on a golden platter, and made so available and easy to use." Imagine the gift that we've been given by
It is.
being on this path, Rishi.
I mean, that's common with everybody that has ever been in a satsang, and all the years that we've been in, everybody's always asking for that. And he gives these little bits of information, and if you follow those, if you investigate those, you'll see, oh, he's given some instruction here.
Wow.
He's given you a hint on where to go. And on this particular video that I just showed you, he said, people have gone and they've passed away, and they have come back to tell the stories, the near-death experiences. And he says clearly near-death experiences.
Wow.
And he has said this on several tapes. And it's like, if you want to know about near-death experiences, then YouTube is just full of them. Just go on YouTube and watch some of these, and you'll come away with it's like it changes your perspectives. It's like you're internal. In your head, that you're eternal, that you live forever, you have a soul. But it's like it flips when you hear these stories, it flips your thinking that, oh, I'm a body with a soul. I'm a soul that happens to be experiencing life through a body. It totally switches your awareness and where your emphasis should be in life. And it made a big change in me. And I've been meditating since Methuselah walked the earth. So it made a difference for me, and I've shared this with several other people, and they've said, "Oh, that's amazing." And I think this is worth sharing with people so that they can get an idea. You want to know what's beyond life? Then here's some of these stories. And the main theme of all the stories is what Guruji's been teaching us. That all God is love, and that's all we are. And when we're here on earth, our main job is to treat each other kindly with love and respect, and love is the answer. That's it. We're made up of love. He keeps saying we're made up of love. And these people on the other side come back and say, hey, that's what we're made of. And it really brings it home. And these stories are very, very interesting. Some people get run over with trucks and get run over with cars and fall out of windows and you name it, get drowned, whatever. So it would be good to check in on these stories. And that's
I can find that
impact
Wally.
thing that I
This is the time that we worship the ancestors, and it culminates on Sunday in the solar eclipse and the Amavasya, the no moon day. And that's the day we honor when we go back, I don't know how many generations, how many of ancestors, and we give thanks to them for being here. Thanks to them, we are here today.
And that's another thing they experience. They experience their ancestors as well. You call on them and they come instantly because there's no time. There's no time on the other side. Everything is infinitely instant. There is no past, there's no future. There's all that is that isness and love.
Yes. That's so beautiful, Wally. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure, you're welcome.
I was wondering if you would mind telling us a little bit about what happened during the hurricane last year when Hurricane Helene hit Asheville, North Carolina.
Well, we were very, very, very blessed. It was Wally's birthday, so we called him. We called it Hurricane Wally or Wallycane, and my sister was calling for his birthday, and right in the middle of the call, we got interrupted because of the hurricane. No telephone lines, and we slept in the basement because we told it was going to be pretty wild. And I got up and was looking out the window to trees falling down all around our house, but they're far enough away that our house was fine. And then we went down to check on our neighbors, and the flood water is up and the cows are walking in the streets. And it was pretty traumatic. But the bottom line is that we were not harmed, and we had all of the neighbors around us had no water for at least a month minimum. So you imagine no showers, no toilet, no cooking, nothing to drink. So but we had this well, and it was just like, how many gallons a second or a minute?
36 gallons a minute.
And so,
which is really great for a well, just so you know, if you don't have one.
We were able to provide like probably 100 people plus a church enough water to live for a month. They could come anytime. It's all filtered and really the best, highest quality water you could get anywhere. And we felt so grateful, not only there, but our business also, we make personal care products, which requires water, and it has to be clean, pure water. So we had 50-gallon drums on trailers that we were driving over to our business and back. And it's like a miracle that this water was provided for everyone in our.
None of our crew got injured. Their houses were fine. Our business was fine. Everything associated with us was taken care of. And we felt we were definitely blessed to anything happen in that regard. So what we did is there was one grocery store that opened up almost immediately because they had prepared for this ahead of time. What was it?
Harris Teeter.
Harris Teeter. And so we went there and we stocked up on a whole bunch of goodies and just went around the neighborhood passing it on to the line workers, the electrical line workers, the police, and everybody, and they were so grateful.
It was like
wow.
The hope was just inundated with trucks. Like they had to move logs. You couldn't even drive for
Yeah,
a
they came
mile or
from,
half a mile.
we had line workers and fire trucks that came from Quebec, Canada, even that far away.
So they would work 24 hours and get no food, or weren't able to stop, and they'd be so tickled that we'd bring them cookies or potato chips or a soda pop. So that was our way of being able to help because of our limitations. So it was our fun to drive and
Once,
we
now
needed
that
help,
happened
yeah.
once we were able to get through the roads because there was a
Yeah.
lot of trees over the road. So that had to be cleared first before we were even able to get out. And that took about a week before we were able to even get around.
Wow,
So
it's really belongingness, huh?
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of these events do, every person was out of their home and taking care of each other. There was no electricity, no water, no internet, no telephones, nothing. So nature was forcing us to, okay, go talk to someone and take care of them. That every person did that. And they were everyone was so grateful for each other. So it was a beautiful,
A
beautiful.
beautiful story. Yeah, I was so blown away by that story when you shared it with us last year.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, another thing, very important. It's like we live in a neighborhood where there's hippies and there's solid Republican, areas around here, especially where we live in this area. And everyone came together and was helping each other. They didn't care what political uh, framework you were in, mindset you were in, didn't matter. Everybody just got together and helped each other.
That was the obvious point of the whole thing, I would say. Really beautiful.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam came together
Yes, it did.
through this dream. Yes. Wow, that is so inspiring to hear. Wow. So what brought you to the art of living? I mean, I know you were already in the TM, part of the TM movement. What brought you
Our
back?
friend, we had several friends, but this one friend was the one that brought us, and it was the thought of meeting a saint, right? Meeting Gurudev.
Alice Holiday.
Yeah, but I don't know if we're allowed to drop names. And she was our little golden girl, right?
Oh,
That was what brought us, was the desire to meet Sri Sri, because we thought we had a meditation technique. But when we learned Sudarshan Kriya, it was very profound. The transition, like, of, oh my God, this is so powerful. And we were so moved that we told every single person that we came across, you need to learn to do this breathing technique. And one thing that they told us, was that through the breath, the physiology can support the consciousness that you've developed, right? So it brings the physiology along with a more powerful connection to getting all of the impressions and strains out of the body. And that was our really profound experience for us directly. It wasn't just words. It was like, oh, this really does work. And so that just set us on the path of everybody's got to know this. And we both were taught this full time for till around 2000, the year 2000. But we have a great story about how we had a 5,000 square foot house Guruji found for us, like roundabout, and
He actually inspected the house with us.
and but it had, I forget, 7 bathrooms, and we could hold 35 people for a silence course sleeping right there
And
at the
he
house.
did come there a couple of times for satsangs. We had 150 people in our living room.
But point being, it was like we ran a little ashram for about 15 years, and it
where
was
was that?
that was in Colorado Springs from 1996
But
to
it's actually
2000.
up in the mountains.
Yeah, in Woodland Park.
And
No, Cascade.
No, Cascade, which is like halfway up the mountain
To Pikes Peak.
towards Pikes Peak.
Wow.
That would be a
That
huge
must have
blessing.
been an amazing experience.
It was so fulfilling because I think, I know, no question, I was born for that purpose. You know, I was always driven that I needed to help save the world. And if this was my calling, was to be there for what whoever needed. And it was so much fun to have the silence courses. And we had Scotty, Roshri, Philip, and then finally I was running them, and Wally and I were running them. And we would be the cooks. For years and years, we were cooks. We were,
Well, she would cook.
well, even in Switzerland, you
Yeah.
were the cook for a few, months. Well, so we did it together.
Yeah, Billy also, Bill Herman.
Yes, he took over at Lake Tahoe. I did think I did the first year, maybe, and then he took over from there. He
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah, he's a good cook. But so did we say, did you you talked about the blessings you've received. Do you have any thoughts on this word blessing? What does blessing mean?
I really feel that it's a connection to the divine. It's a link, you're in your center, and the intention and the laws of nature, or Shiva, whichever you want to call it, answers your intention. Then, I mean, you're neutral, right? But the person, you want energy, it's energy, a flow of a frequency. And I really feel it comes from Gurudev, right? He's infinite. He hears everyone's thoughts and prayers. He can be more places at once than, Wally's witnessed it many times. And I think it's Guruji's intention that he says, what does he say? My meditation catches on through you. And Wally has a story about in India where he told us to go out and.
Yeah, he said this was like in 92, something like that, 93, and he said to go to the villages. And well, first of all, I don't speak any Hindi or any, Indian language at all. So I said, what should we talk about? He said, no, don't say anything. He said, just go there and be in the village. He says, my meditation will catch on through you.
So to me, that's
Yeah.
blessing. And that's what we've done all our life. Even Wally will take a drive and he'll say, well, I guess we were supposed to bless this town by our presence. And it's not an ego thing. All of us who have this technique, this knowledge, and come under this umbrella are blessing the world by our frequency and our energy. And we should fully be aware of that, because he's told us many times, not just us, but the whole of all of us.
Now the key to that whole blessing thing is to have a hollow and empty mind. You cannot go to a village or anywhere else and be filled with judgments and what you're going to do tomorrow, what you did today, and how bad this person and how good this other person is, and all that. You just have a hollow and empty mind, and his blessing and his, what shall I say, his grace flows through you out into the atmosphere. And he's told us that how many times at satsangs over the years. And he said the highest form of teaching is to be hollow and empty. To be hollow and empty in activity. You're hollow and empty when you meditate, when you do these techniques, but the critical time is when you're out in the world. And either, you just be in that hollow and empty space, and whatever you need to say or do will come to you automatically. Whatever you're trained in, if you're trained as a programmer or a truck driver, whatever, there's skills that you learn intellectually, but the key is to be hollow and empty the rest of the time. You have to figure out 2 + 2 is 3, fine, you write it down, but then you're back into the space. You let go, constantly letting go. That's the key to the Vedas.
That is
He
so
keeps telling
beautiful.
us that. He keeps telling us that in so many ways over and over again until we get it. Tells us in stories, he tells us directly.
It does.
Isn't it?
Yes. Oh my God, that is so moving.
Yeah, it's the truth though, you know. When we were in India, you know, just Guruji's presence so many times. Like we used to, before TSA pre-check and all of that, you could just walk in the airport
Yes.
with your people that were getting on the plane. And like when he'd go through security check or customs, like he used to set off the alarms, right? And I would ask him, well, how did you stop setting them off? He says, you just put your peacock feathers down. And then, but people would want to, they would stop to check him, you know, because he'd set off the alarm, and they'd want to hold his hand, you know, they would keep him at the window extra long, and they'd reach out and grab his hand. And all of that is his presence.
Another saying that has stuck with me over time is that he has said, you can either have a mind or a master. And that goes along with what I just said about being hollow and empty in activity.
Wow.
Because when you're in that hollow and empty space, you're so connected with him.
You're the master.
You're so connected with who he is and who you are in your own being, your own soul. That infinite being that you already are. You can only connect with that when you're not here.
Wow.
So when we hosted the Los Angeles at the time, and this was the first set of swamis was from an Adi Chinchinagiri. He's a famous saint in India, and their main goal is to provide service and seva to all the people there, the various districts. And so each one of the swamis that was there actually had like 10-20,000 people in their districts. So he had maybe 12 of those come along with the Adi Chinchinagiri's secretary. Now his secretary happens to be, he has his doctorates in theology, in let's see, theology is 3 different doctorates in that
Spiritual
area.
Consciousness.
Yeah, in divinity and so forth. And he said, you know, we were on the way to the airport. I was taking him back, all in back. We had a motorhome called the Honey at the time, and I'm sure you're familiar with that one. And he said, you know, you all are so lucky. He said, I have studied years and years and taken doctorates. And he said, would they teach us all this knowledge and very high knowledge? And he said, your guru has made all of the knowledge that I have taken years to study and made it a practical living experience for all of you. He said, you don't know how fortunate you are.
We certainly are.
Yes.
Wow. Just talking to you, to both of you, has made all this knowledge so real again, and so makes Gurudev brings us so close to him. We need to sit around and do more of this at the ashram when we all meet.
Yeah, it's so fun to share. It really is
Have
such a
these
blessing.
sessions, though it's hard when he's so close by in the kuti,
Yes.
a few feet away. It's hard to sit and talk about.
Yeah. True.
You know what really tweaked my interest was what you said about that TTC, which was completed over a period of 3 months, chasing him from one city to the other. What was that? What happened in that TTC? What went on?
Well, the first time in Switzerland, it was down in like the cafe area. and they had teachers speaking in German and English, and I guess one in Hindi, because of course everyone had come from all over the world to be with Guruji, and nothing too much. They started to teach us how to speak about the art of living, and then they would translate each one in the different languages. And it was only lasted like a day and a half or 2 days. It was very, very short. So then we went to Canada, and Scotty was teaching, and Dean and Mikey, yeah, all of them. Ramola, who just passed, was my study mate, and she really helped me so much. She was such a dear, and that was regular. You know, we would have our notebooks, and they dictated every single point we had to write by hand. You know, and then we would talk, we would read it, study it, and then try to give it back to each other. Then we practiced doing the pranayams and the Vastrika. And that was the whole training there. And then the next training was, well, actually it was even 4 parts. We went to India, and Marlene Barrera, do you remember her? And Wally, myself, it was one other person. Then that's when we got part of the sacred notes, but there wasn't time to finish it. They was all dictated, and we wrote it a sacred book and kept it special. And then Dean Harmison finished it, the rest of it, when we got back to the United States. It was just very not so organized. And then as each person became in charge of TTC, I think Dean and Shirley did, and then Michael did, and Rajri did. And as each person was the leader, they refined it and made it in, you know, structured, a little more structure like that. And I think when Somya was in there, then they really got a whole big manual, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's evolved as the time has passed.
Wow.
And but you know, it's so beautiful because, you know, Guruji's overseeing every step of each program. Do this to them, give them that, tease them here, you know, make them do this, because, you know, so it's definitely his whole program, even though different people have put it together in writing, written it down.
Yeah, he said, as teachers of this, he said, and also the highest seva you can do is live daily life in that space, the space between the words. And I was going to say
That's
something
what it
else.
is.
Yeah.
That's what our whole life is.
Yeah.
But you know, we need this kind
That's
of,
where all the magic happens.
We missed what you said, Bala. Sorry.
but no, we need this kind of satsang to happen constantly to keep us in that space also.
It's true. It's inspirational. And I really feel that it allows people to open and connect more, you know, like there's new people, right? That it's all very strange to. And so then they feel like, oh, it's natural that what I feel, the love for Guruji, you know, it's like, it's so powerful. And if you hear someone speaking about it and sharing it, then like, oh yes, everyone feels this love that I feel, you know. And otherwise it's like, oh dear, is there something wrong with me, or, you know, like that. They don't know. So it's when you can share, it's better.
You know,
Allows everybody to come on.
yeah, now it's getting time for the most sacred time of the year. Navaratri is coming up next week. Did you used to go and attend the Navaratri?
We did. So amazing. The memories of the ashram in 1990s. You know, we'd get all dressed up in our beautiful white saris and have to jump over rivers of mud puddles, you know, and get there without a spot on us. And the trails were like literally mountain trails. You'd have to hike through the bushes and up the knots in the mountain, and where where the Vishalakshmi Hall is now. That was right where I think Guruji may still have his kutir next to there, where he visits people. That is where the men used to sleep, and then the Navaratri pujas and everything was way down where the old admin buildings are, and right near there, and like where the dining hall is now. That that I mean, that was just all undeveloped land. Guruji used to go. We'd all, when he's out for his walks, we would hike up to where the Vishalakshi Hall is. I mean, it was a literal hike up this little hill, mountain type, and he'd stand there and like he'd say, in years to come, he said, all of this land will be filled solid with people coming to satsang, and is all it was just desert. We couldn't imagine what, and he saw it. He hadn't even built anything there, and he just make his hand like this. It'll all be filled with. He saw the vision. He made it happen. And I mean, the contrast from then to now is like amazing what he could see and did, because it was very, very small. We had what, 200 people there for a few months, rounding, and
Now
getting one.
packed
Yeah.
shoulder to shoulder for
Yeah,
as far as the eye can see, I think.
thousands and thousands. Yeah. In
Wow.
fact, it was the time I did go back and see the admin, that what we called admin, that it was like archaic. It wasn't even being used really. It was just set aside. And that used to be the main entry to the ashram.
I mean, it's still one of the entrances, I think.
I would think so, yeah. So Navaratri, yeah, it was like the tent was probably 100 by 50 feet square, and they would put sand. The whole ground was covered with the sand. It used to be the hall where we would go and meditate, and Guruji would come and talk, and they would build the brick and the altars, and we would all pile in there. I mean, all of us, just, it was really packed deep, but every day it was just the most euphoric and unbelievable place you could ever want to be in your life. And every day we'd wait for which puja would be happening, and we were in that process of learning of how you get ready, whether you wear clothes without threads or whatever. And then the procession of bringing, they'd send the little maidens over to get their little baskets of whatever food or fruit or flowers that they were carrying. And it was such a gift to get to be in the middle of it all, and the vibration and the fullness. And anyone who can be allowed to go should go. You just, it's the highest, that as far as an experience of fulfillment and joy and being together with your people and your master and feeling that oneness of the flow together. And it's like a big party for 9 days, even though there's the 3 parts, right? But you even feel as if you're evolving together. You feel that experience. You've come through this and you came through that, do it if you can go. It's huge and very powerful.
It's an experience, sure. Wow, thank you for sharing that. So do you have any closing remarks? I mean, I could listen forever to these stories. I don't think the heart is ever full enough.
Mm.
There's always room for one more guru story, one more blessing story, one more memory. You must have known Banu Didi pretty well too, and Amma and Pitaji.
And Banu and Amma, we go to Amma's house and she would make us little round treats. We'd sit around the table and tell stories. And, you will not believe this, but Banu and Amma used to fight over who's going to feed Guruji. Not fight, but they would, oh, she went early, so she's going to feed him, and I don't get to feed him. So sweet. I mean, they live with him, they've grown up with him, and still it's that huge honor to them to be able to serve him and give him from their heart.
Did they take the food in a tiffin carrier? Or?
Yeah, it would depend on where he was that day and what time he would eat, and they would run it over there. And it was just so fun to watch, and how much they loved him and what they would do, and get when his first kutir was, well, it had 2 rooms, maybe 12 by 12, and then a third room with a bedroom. Well, I think the first one only had two rooms, and now and then the next one was pretty elaborate, and he didn't want things to be elaborate. He wanted to keep it simple and natural. But people want to give, and they want to make it the best, right? And so they would build him these new places. So it evolved. But his very first one was just practically a little shack, and so.
Wow.
It's amazing to see. It's sort of like you have the seed, you're just that little core, and now it's just this enormous, beautiful. He even said that. He said, I think, he really cherishes the ones that in the new days when he was so young. He said, it's a very rare person that comes to a spring where the river is starting. And he said, many will come when the river is flowing full. He said, many will come, but he said, it's not so many will come when to the sprout of the river.
One thing he told us as teachers is that as teachers, what you convey in silence is more important than the words that you say when you're teaching. So what that made me do is to slow down, and whenever you say something, leave some space so that someone that you're speaking to can digest it. They have some chance to digest it. So
that's huge, one.
Mm.
And that does sort of summarize everything that he wants us to experience in satsang. The space
Correct.
between.
The space between the words. And that's my final thought.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean actually, Wally?
What does that actually mean?
The space between the words. Just being hollow and empty in activity. That's all.
It means the consciousness behind the words. It's not always what's coming out of your mouth, but your presence.
It's like whenever you become aware that you're off doing this, drop it and let go. Just drop it and be in that silence. Someone asked Guruji how many hours a day, or how long do you meditate each day? He said 24 hours.
That's the space between
Now,
words.
What happens when you meditate and when you do these hollow and empty techniques? The thoughts go, and what are you left with? Nothing. There's nothing up here, right? So that's in your activity. You have the choice. It's like before doing this program, you don't have, it's like you never had a choice. It's the thoughts kept coming and coming. They keep coming and chatter this, chatter that. And oh my God, when's that going to end? Some people more so than others, but still it's that constant chatter. But now that you meditate, you do these programs, now you have a contrast. Now you're able to say, now you're able to have the decision whether I'm going to keep churning this thing over in my mind, or am I going to just drop it and let go, no matter what it is, and live in that space until I have to act, until I have to think about something. If I have to think about where I'm going, rest of the time, you just relax. Just relax in that space, relax your mind, just let go. It's constant letting go. That's what meditation is, isn't it? Ultimately, you take the mantra and what happens? You let go. Drop. Same thing in activity. So that's how you meditate 24 hours a day.
Wow. Wow, that's so beautiful that you shared that, Wally.
Be in the present moment, right? That's the knowledge point.
The yoga and I started that down that road of letting go when I was in TM and I read the Yoga Vashista. There's a book, the Concise Yoga Vashista. It's like a purple and black and white book, and it's about that, just that thick. And I read it, and it's stories about peeling away all of your concepts one by one. This concept, let it go. This concept, let it go. They said it's like taking an onion and peeling it off until you're left with what? Nothing. And it's in that nothingness. So you peel away all of your concepts until you're finally left with just walking in life hollow and empty until you need to say something. And guess what? Whatever you need to say and whatever you need to do will automatically come to you at the right time and right place.
This is so true.
That's it.
Well,
Wow. If only we could wait for that moment and not rush into things constantly, world would be a better place.
yes.
So do you remember your first Sudarshan Kriya? Either of you?
Yeah, we were with Scotty and them up in.
There were like 75 people in our class. It was in Iowa. There was so many people. Yeah. It was breaking a lot of boundaries for me. You know, like I was pretty like men leave women alone and you don't do gazing together. And, you know, and, as far as remembering like a profound becoming oneness, I don't remember that far back. It was, I know that I was impressed and it was powerful and enough so that it said, yeah, everyone should know this knowledge.
So when did
Think
that moment happen?
the big aha, you mean?
When he threw the flowers, basically, that
Yeah,
was
that's
that was
true.
the first. That was the one that sold us right there when he threw the flowers over the car. And it's like it didn't matter. We hadn't even taken the course yet to say, okay, I'm in, I'm sold. I mean, you can't deny an experience like that.
It's true.
So
And also, just being in his presence and all the different moments that he gives you, the energy, the blessing that happens at satsang, anywhere. It's like even I tried to mention people in his presence. We were in Hawaii and there was a table full of psychics and Guruji sits down. The woman grabs his hand and she starts singing. Oh, it was just so funny. But it was his presence, right? His energy. So it's just any moment, so many powerful things happen. Just the sweetest. Yeah.
we are asked to do a book on this, so this is what we're going to do.
Please
We
do.
have a lot of we have a lot of stories we have to write down now.
Yes, it's time to start writing, both of you, because these stories are what are going to sustain our future generations. And they're so sweet and so filled with love and so much heart.
Yeah,
And this
that's
is
what it's all about, the heart, love. That's what he, I used to always say, he's the manifestation of divine love. And how could anybody miss that? I mean, it's like no matter what you think of gurus or masters or teachers, just give yourself the opportunity to experience the experience of divine love. It's like, where else could you find such a profound depth of love? It's beyond. So beautiful.
wow. I feel
So
so
give
privileged
that
You can
was
always
an honor that you asked.
add some bits and pieces. So thank you so much. That was way more than I ever imagined that you would be able to share. It is
If I thought you were going to record it, I would have dressed up and made myself a little more presentable.
you look amazing, both of you. You look just like you do when you come to the
Oh, sure.
so
Thank you.